Now, there's another story I want to talk about today. There was a couple of stories on the continuing developments around sexual impropriety in Hollywood. One, J.K. Rowling came out and kind of made a comment around Johnny Depp in line with what people have been, there's been some blowback about his casting in Fantastic Beasts. She said that it's difficult, frustrating, and at times painful. There's agreements that have been put in place to protect the privacy of the people involved. But she says, I'm comfortable with the sticking to the original casting. Genuinely happy to have Johnny playing a major character in the movies. Now that's a little frustrating, but I'm a little bit burying the lead here because that pales in comparison to the fiery editorial that came out from Dylan Farrow in the LA Times today, who calls out basically saying, why does Harvey Weinstein get nailed to the wall and Woody gets a pass? And not only does he say that, he calls out specific people. Dylan says, he says, Kate Winslet, what the heck? You said that it's, Kate Winslet, he quotes, says that, incredibly brave and deeply shocking about people who've talked out about Harvey Weinstein, but Kate says, oh, I don't know. She says, of Alan, I didn't know anybody and I don't know anything about that family. Now, to be clear, this is something that has been getting lots of coverage for years. Likewise, Farrow says, Blake Lively, says of Weinstein, it's important that women are furious right now. But then on the subject of Alan, Lively says, it's very dangerous to factor in things you don't know anything about. Greta Gerwig, who is in Alan's To Rome with Love, has called him her idol, but says about Weinstein, it's heartbreaking and I think it's overdue. Greta Gerwig tells Terry Gross on NPR, it's difficult to talk about when referring to Alan. So there is this double standard. And Dylan goes on to say, I hesitate to speak out because the invective tends to be put out against Mia Farrow as opposed to people taking on Dylan, who has gone on and on to talk about sexual abuse that happened at 7 years old. And although there's, as we know, there was probable cause determined by the Connecticut State's attorney in '93, but didn't go through with prosecution, partly to keep Dylan out of the courts, or so they say. So we have this fiery letter from Dylan Farrow about Woody Allen, and I got to tell you, as a critic, I think, you know what? I've lost all interest in watching Wonder Whale. I've just completely lost all interest, and I've lost interest in anything Woody Allen has to do in film at all. And why does he continue to get a pass?
This infuriates me because even when I was young and of an age that I shouldn't understand these things, when it got talked about what he did with, basically marrying his stepdaughter, I thought that was weird. I thought that was just something unseemly about that. And then as I get older and I start to work in this industry and I hear things and I'm like, why is this man constantly getting away with making these films? And why is he lauded? Why does he keep getting awards? Why is he so accepted? And I think like when you have a Weinstein, it's so easy because what Weinstein does is so it's in your face. You can't ignore the rape allegations there. It's very succinct stories where a lot of the stuff surrounding Woody Allen happens to be in the past, and people are protective of their careers. And I think that there are a lot of people who are willing to be like, oh, this doesn't affect me personally. It's fine. I really want to work with this person and achieve these awards and do this. And it infuriates me to no end. And every time Dylan opens his mouth, I love reading his pieces. I think he says what needs to be said. And I think it's about time somebody holds the accomplices accountable.
You get away with what you've gotten away with.
Yeah.
People keep getting away with it because no one stopped that dynamic from happening. The other aspect is, Weinstein isn't as fine a point as a Woody Allen movie. No one's like, oh, I really want to be in a Weinstein movie. You don't. You want to be in a Tarantino movie, and you idolize Woody Allen. You've looked up to him since you were a kid, whatever it was, if it's Bananas or whatever. But they don't want to face this head on. And yes, it is more tangible to say like, the guy showed up in a robe multiple times and made people and like raped folks. Yeah. But that you can't just not have that conversation. To say, I don't want to speak about what I don't know about is not an excuse to bury your head in the sand and not find out any more information about it. That just explains the situation you're in right now where you don't have the information, you've got to go find it. And the more you look into it, the more it will be deemed reprehensible. And if you have any integrity, you have to take a stand.
Well, I think what's interesting in this particular piece that Dylan has written is that he points out in '97, there was a report from Connecticut Magazine that Allen's legal team had hired private investigators to find damaging information on the law enforcement officials working the abuse case. And then he says, Ronan Farrow documented in the Reporter last year, Allen's public relations team for 42 West continues to jump into action anytime allegations resurface. And so you have to figure that there is an active quashing of this discussion.
It just seems like everyone's borrowing from the Harvey Weinstein private detective shut them up book, because it seems, I keep hearing about this in Hollywood where these powerful men are hiring private detectives to get away with doing very gross, disgusting things. And that this is coming out, with also what we know about Weinstein, Woody Allen should be held to the same accountability as Weinstein and everyone else.
Now's the time.
Yeah, now is the time.
And then just from a selfish perspective, or just like a practical perspective, he's been making the same movie for quite some time. Like he's not gonna make a new groundbreaking film at this point in his career. So just rewatch the one you like, as opposed to waiting for the new version of it again.
Right, well, so that's the other question is, and we'll have to save that for another discussion at another time. Like at what point do we stop separating the art from the artist? That's a big question. For me, I can't, at least for Woody Allen, aside from Bananas, I'm kind of done.